Marketing is something corporations do to sell you stuff, right? Well, not necessarily. In fact, you're being marketed to right now by politicians, churches, universities, influencers, news organizations, your favorite sports team, your boss, and yes, even by your spouse. And if you're married, you already know this. Have you ever heard this one? Honey, we don't need another dog. That's not a statement, that's a communication strategy. But here's the problem: marketing and communications can be used to inform people or manipulate them. They can build trust or destroy it. They can bring people together or turn us against each other. And in an age of AI, social media, deep fakes, and information overload, knowing the difference has never been more important. So, on this episode of Holy Sorta, we're going behind the scenes. What does any of this have to do with faith, truth, and how we live? Let's talk about it. So, let's start with something simple. Marketing isn't just advertising. Yes, advertising gets your attention, but marketing is much bigger. In my own framework, I define marketing as the intentional process of creating meaningful experiences that move people toward action. Think about that. Meaningful experiences in action. That's a little different from buy my stuff. Marketing starts by asking, who are you trying to reach? What do they need? And why should they care? And what experience are you creating for them? That's why my framework breaks marketing into three basic pieces: one, advertising; two, branding; and three, customer experiences. Advertising gets attention and builds awareness. Branding shapes expectations and deepens relationships. In customer experience, that's where you either keep your promise or you break it. You can have the greatest advertisement in the world, but if the actual experience stinks, people notice and they remember. You can't Photoshop bad customer service over and make it look better. Well, apparently you can now, but you probably shouldn't. But here's where this gets interesting. Marketing principles aren't limited to big companies. In fact, they're everywhere. A political candidate is marketing an idea. A university markets an educational experience, and a nonprofit markets a cause. Well, your church is also communicating a vision, and government agencies are trying to convince people to trust policies. And you're also marketing yourself every day through your resume, your social media profile, and the way you're introducing yourself to others is also marketing. Even the way you tell your story is marketing. Now, before somebody gets offended, I'm not saying be fake and lie. I'm saying be intentional about what you're communicating. Because whether you intend to communicate something or not, you are communicating something. And that's why what's happening with artificial intelligence right now matters. AI is changing marketing incredibly fast. In fact, we're seeing AI generated advertisements, images, videos, copy, social media posts, and even personalized marketing. And the technology isn't necessarily the problem, however. The question is, what are we doing with it? Right now, there's a growing debate about AI generated advertising and communication. Some businesses are embracing AI because it's faster and cheaper. Others are pushing back because AI generated content can look generic, cluttered, or disconnected from real human creativity. And here's the holy sort of question: does efficiency automatically equal effectiveness? Because it doesn't. You can create 1,000 pieces of content in 5 minutes, but nobody will care. You can generate a beautiful image and still communicate absolutely nothing. You can write the perfect sentence and still lose someone's interest and trust. And we're already seeing another problem. AI can be used not only to market products, but to manufacture perception. Political campaigns, for example, are increasingly dealing with AI generated images, deep fakes, and fabricated stories. So now we have to ask, is this communication or is it manipulation? That's a very important distinction, which brings us to our propaganda alert. Marketing isn't automatically propaganda, however, but propaganda is essentially communication designed to influence people, often by selectively presenting information or manipulating emotion. And here's the trick: propaganda doesn't always look evil. Sometimes it looks professional, patriotic, scientific, and sometimes it has really cool graphics. Sometimes it has a really convincing dude on YouTube, and sometimes that dude is me. So don't believe something simply because the production quality is good. Don't believe something because it went viral. Don't believe something because everybody in your political tribe agrees with it. And don't believe something because an AI chatbot said it. Question everything. That's one of the foundational ideas of Holy Sorta. So, how do we communicate better? My communications philosophy is built around four simple ideas: mission, objectives, value, and engagement, or simply move. Mission means why are we communicating? Objectives are what we're trying to accomplish, and value questions why the audience should care. It's the value question they each ask themselves as an audience member and a potential consumer of information. Engagement means are we reaching the right people with the right message through the right channel and at the right time? And that's a huge one because communication isn't just did I say it, it's did they understand it? There's a difference there. Now, this is where my overall philosophy comes together. I call it lighting the way. The role of marketing and communications is to bring clarity where there's confusion, confidence where there's uncertainty, and connection where there's distance. I love that idea because communication should function like a lighthouse. It doesn't steer a ship, it doesn't control the ocean, and it doesn't make the waves disappear. It simply says, here's where you are, here's where the danger is, and here's where you're going. That's what good communication does. It creates clarity. And in a world drowning in information, clarity is becoming increasingly valuable. Here's where holy sorta gets, well, holy sorta, because the Bible has a lot to say about communication. In fact, James says we should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. That's basically a communication strategy. Listen first, understand the audience, and then speak. My leadership model actually starts with the same principle: listen, then empower, align, deliver. It includes accountability, clarity, and technical prowess. Notice something here. It starts with listening. Not talking, not broadcasting, not posting, and just listening. Because if you don't understand people, you probably don't understand the problem you're trying to communicate about and lead teams about. Now, there's a psychological reason that this matters. Human beings don't process information like computers. We bring our experiences, our emotions, our assumptions, fears, identities, our communities, and our biases. That's why two people can watch the same exact news story and walk away believing they've seen two completely different realities. Communication doesn't happen when the speaker talks as much as it happens when meaning is created between the speaker and the audience. And that's why the best communicators often simply ask, not what do I want to say, but they ask, what does this audience need to understand? And that's a very different approach and a different question. Now, this also applies to your personal life. Maybe you're not a marketing director, a CEO, or a social media manager for a major corporation. That doesn't matter. You still communicate. So here's your personal challenge. Before you send that angry text, stop, think. Before you post that political meme, stop and think. And before you forward that outrageous headline, stop and think. And ask yourself 4 questions while you're thinking. Number 1, is it true? 2, is it necessary? 3, is it clear? 4, does it actually help? Or am I going to regret it? Because sometimes the most powerful communication is the message you decided not to send. So here's what marketing and communication really boil down to. It's not about manipulation or propaganda or making people buy something. It's not about having the cleverest slogan or even about having the biggest audience. It's about meaning. What are you trying to communicate? Who needs to hear it? Why should they care? And are you keeping the promise you made? Because that's the part marketers often forget about. Your brand isn't what you say you are, it's what people experience from you. It's not as much your words as your actions. Your organization has a brand. Your church has a brand. Your government has a brand. Your family has a brand, and yes, you also have a brand. It's the story people tell themselves about who you are. So make sure the story matches reality. Now, as we close up, and in a world where anybody can create a message, AI can create a message, and misinformation can spread a message around the planet in seconds. In this world, truth still matters. Clarity, listening, trust, and how we communicate, it matters a lot. So here's the Holy Sorta challenge for this episode. Don't just ask, what do I want to say? Ask, what does the other person need to understand? That's how communication becomes connection. That's how marketing becomes meaningful, and that's how we start lighting the way. So, if this episode made you think differently about marketing, communication, social media, or the way you're communicating with people around you, please subscribe and share this episode with somebody who communicates for a living, if you know them, or somebody who thinks they don't and needs help. And let me know in the comments, what's the best marketing you've ever seen and what made it work? I'm Dr. Hayes. This is Holy Sorta. Question everything, grow intentionally because truth still rocks and light still leads, but sometimes faith ain't pretty. I'll see you next time. Take care and be good.
A nation founded on faith. Now we're divided. We're not as holy as we used to be, but truth still rocks. Light still leads. This is Holy Sorta.